Talking to some of the best names in contemporary Christian music. This is the Hope FM Artist Interview.
And welcome to this week's episode of The Artist Interview, a podcast from Hope FM. And it's my pleasure to speak to people from the world of contemporary Christian music. And this week, I've got to say, we've got such a lovely guy who's got some really amazing music out there. It's none other than Michael Cochren. And I've just realised, Michael, that I mentioned you use the first track. We haven't decided what the tracks are. So what are the tracks that we're going to do, Michael?
Why don't we do Church, Take Me Back?
That's perfect.
Take me back to a preacher and a verse where they've seen me at my worst, to the love I had at first. Oh, I want to go to church. Yeah, I want to go to church.
And that was Church, Take Me Back by Cochren and Company. Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me on, Gordon.
It's a pleasure to have you with us on the show. So we're pretty familiar with your music here on Hope FM. And, you know, it would be great to find out a little bit about your story, about where you've come from, about your musical gifting, how that all came about, and how Jesus wove right into the middle of your story. So feel free, you've got the floor, sir.
Yeah, well, you know, my story is probably not uncommon for a lot of people in America here that you know, grew up kind of Bible Belt, as we call it, you know, like Christianity is just kind of permeates society in some way, shape, or form. But it was really, I was brought up in the church. My grandfather was a minister for 50 years. My grandmother was a church organist, and, you know, I was there every Sunday, and I just remember her walking around barefoot because she didn't like to wear her shoes on the organ pedals. So my mom was like the children's church teacher, you know. We were just there all the time. Church was like, I mean, I just didn't even think, I thought everybody just went, you know, it's what we all did. And I remember I went to, I got baptized when I was a little kid, probably like 9 years old. And I just always believed, you know, but then, yeah, I mean, I grew up, like, music was a huge part of my upbringing. You know, my grandparents sang all the time. My mom sang to me. My dad played multiple instruments, and I just knew from a young age I wanted to be a musician. You know, that's what I wanted to do. If I couldn't be a professional basketball player, which I wasn't very good, I wasn't very good at that. But I always wanted to just be a musician and sing and whatever that was going to look like. And when I was little, those things worked together, my faith and music. And most of my musical outlets as a kid was church and playing specials, you know, on Sunday mornings, and even leading from a hymnal at the small country church that I grew up in. And but when I got older in the middle school and stuff, you know, I started doing band. I started playing drums. Drums was like the first instrument I really cared about. I took piano lessons as a kid, but there's something about hitting the drums, you know, and making some serious noise.
My son is a drummer. He sometimes drums for like, I don't know, 10 hours a day sometimes. He's in the UK, we've got different grades for your drummer. He's just done grade 8 and got 93%, which is the top grade you can get. So
that's awesome.
He's a serious drummer, but for him, it's drums or nothing. So yeah. So you were doing drums back then. What age was that?
I would have started when I was the 6th grader. So that would be like, I think like 11, 12, maybe 12 years old.
Yeah.
And that's all I cared about. I mean, I just wanted to drum all the time. I didn't play piano at all. I just wanted to just drum. And I joined the pep band, I joined the jazz band. And then when I got into 8th grade, upper middle school, some high school guys asked me to join their rock band. And that was like the coolest thing ever, you know. So we were touring the Midwest region and you know, playing out and playing rock music with other rock bands. And I was like, holy smokes, like, this is what I want to do. I want to tour. And that was my first taste of like road life. And I was like, this is it for me. And, you know, things change when you go through school, and friends groups change and stuff. And I ended up, you know, not being in that band anymore. And then I started playing piano again and writing music. And so by the time I was about to graduate high school, I had kind of a little stack of songs, mostly terribly written songs, you know, that I was starting to play, and I played my first concert ever my senior year of high school. It coincided with the really bad earthquake in Haiti at the time, and so the community I was in had a fundraiser concert, and I played a concert for the fundraiser relief for Haiti. It was my very first concert. I still have the poster somewhere.
So what year was that roughly?
That was 2010.
And how old were you at that point?
I would have been 17 or 18.
Okay.
Maybe it might have been 18.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all that was kind of coinciding musically. When I was a kid, they kind of went in tandem with my faith. And then when I got into middle school and high school, I kind of started to separate myself from traditional Christian beliefs, kind of, I think what I was experiencing was I had been going along with my parents' faith, and my grandparents' faith as a kid. And then there became these years of like, well, what do I actually think? How do I want to live my life? Maybe I don't want to live it like this. Maybe I want to do it my own way, see what else is out there. So that kind of became the theme of my high school years, was rebellion and, but like subtle rebellion. Like, my friends' parents still thought I was a good kid, and so did my parents. And I would have called myself a Christian so that my grandparents didn't get mad at me or something like that, or my parents. But I mean, really nothing in my life looked like Jesus or Christianity by the time I was leaving high school and entering college. My goals and aspirations for music at that time were just like, let's get girls to like me, and let's just be the coolest person ever, And I wanted to move to Nashville, Tennessee. I was born and raised in Indiana. I should probably say that. But I wanted to move to Nashville, Tennessee, and I wanted to play at the bars and the honky tonks, and I wanted to pick up girls, and I wanted to play music every day, all day long. And that was kind of my goals. But when I went to college, I began to connect with some guys on campus that I kind of knew. They kind of knew me, but they were serious Christians, and they took their faith seriously. And I began to rub shoulders with them more and see, there's a way that you can find peace and fulfillment, not in the rat race, not in trying to seek approval through your talents or your whatever, because that's how I spent most of my time. Is like all my friendships revolved around either me being funny or being good at music, or it was all about my performance, there wasn't a lot of relationship built on just who I was. And I began to kind of experience that community, and I began to, I think, maybe even meet Jesus for the first time in college, and began to read the Bible and go to Bible studies. And because I stopped doing some of the things that I was doing. I stopped, a lot of the heavy drinking and some of the drug stuff that I was into in high school and college. And I started, basically got new friends, and I was hanging out at these Bible studies, and they were like, hey, you want to play piano with us tonight at this worship thing? And I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm the guy for that, and but I did. I started playing music in the worship bands there, and as God began to work in my heart, I began to serve at a church part-time with their worship in the town I was going to college in. And so all this time, God was using the things that I love, the things that I used to use for myself, for vanity. God began using them to draw me to himself, and to kind of create this path for me of it's what I wanted to do my whole life. And God knew that, and God put that desire in my heart, and he was just guiding that process of, okay, you think it's going to look like this, and I'm just going to shift it, and it's going to look like this, and you're going to work at a church, which I never, ever thought I would ever do.
Wow. Did your grandparents get to know that you worked at a church? Were they at least?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, that's cool.
My grandfather, he passed away in 2020 in the spring, right before COVID stuff, actually. So he was in a nursing home. So I'm actually thankful that the Lord, took him then. He didn't have to live in the nursing home during COVID. But my grandmother's still living. She's 93 years old.
Wow.
And so it's pretty cool. What's funny is they prayed my whole life that these opportunities would come for me. And so it's cool. My grandfather got to see me go out on my first big tour, and it's very cool.
Oh, that's so wonderful. That must have answered prayer. How great is it? Generations praying for the generations below to come through. I've got to say, it's beautiful to hear that. And I bet they were just delighted. So, and I know you said that you mentioned about the performance thing and identity and how that sort of all works together, and how in the past you were trying to seek after being popular and stuff like that. If you don't mind me asking, though, it's a really difficult thing as a Christian artist, because there we are trying to get our identity in Christ.
Yes.
But you are part of the machine where people like me and all our listeners are asking you to perform. And literally you perform on stage,
right.
But also we want your songs to be good. Your songs have to be a standard, or you lose your record contract. So there is a thing that is pushing you to perform,
yes,
which in some ways is good because you want to perform to us. But how do you personally manage all the stats and the figures? Like Church Take Me Back, 5 million views on YouTube, huge success. Is that how we measure it, or is a song and some of your videos on YouTube have only got a few hundred views?
Right.
But those might be the ones that touch someone's heart more as well, and unlock something. So how do you personally manage, I guess, the pressure side of it, and also just to keep your focus on Jesus rather than all the numbers that otherwise go with stuff?
Well, how do I manage? I would say not very well.
That's honest. I like that.
Yeah. It's daily. I think it's moment by moment. And I think that, I don't know about every artist, but my biggest enemy in all of this is comparison, which social media just fuels comparison, but on my good days, I'm operating from a place of gratitude where I'm just grateful, that God has me doing this at all, because there's a time, not only did I think I wouldn't be involved in Christianity, but I also didn't think I would be involved in professional music. I had tried for years to get my music in front of the right people and do the right things, and it just, closed door after closed door. And then, I was serving at a church full time at that point in time in 2016. And I just said to the Lord, I said, if this is obviously where you want me to be, because these doors aren't opening. So I'm going to be faithful here, and I'm going to stop fighting so hard to claw open doors that you don't want to open. And so that was my heart posture. And literally a year later, I met a manager who began introducing me to record labels, and they would actually email us back this time. And, a year and a half later, had a record contract and was going out on tour with one of the biggest Christian artists ever, And so it's like, that's not the story for everyone, right? Just because, you surrender your hopes and dreams and then God gives you your dreams. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But I think operating from a point of gratitude is like, none of this had to happen. Like, God didn't have to put me in these places and do this. And so that's got to be enough for me. And because of that, because of the opportunities he's given me, my motivation comes from stewardship, wanting to be faithful and put out. He's given me a platform. So I want to make the best music that I can make, because he's worthy of that, and the opportunities are worthy of that. And I want to steward everything that he's given me well. And just like the gospel, it's not, I feel like there's people out there that, maybe deserved it more. And for whatever reason, God chose to put me in this position. And so I don't operate so much as to receive this from God, but because he's given it to me, I just want to do it out of gratitude, And that's a good positional shift just from my whole life of trying to be this so that I would be accepted, as to like, God accepts us. God accepts you. God accepts me. And that's the motivation to love him, not to get the love, but because we've been given it. So I try to remember that. I try to wash the gospel over myself in the music industry as well, and come from a place of, this is not my identity. If this is all gone tomorrow, that doesn't change who I am. This is just something that God's allowing me to do for this season. And for some people, that season is a long time, and for some people that season is very short, and God gives and God takes away. And I want to have a constant heart posture to where I would truly mean it and say, blessed be the name of the Lord, with a number 1 or with a number 100, whatever these songs do, there's only so much I can control. And so that's on my good days. I'm thinking through that. On my bad days, I'm like, oh, like, look at these artists. They're crushing it. Why am I not, And those are the bad days, because comparison, it's not a cliche. It's true that comparison really does just steal joy and just like rip it out of you. And that's the enemy's design. If he can, if he can just ruin your day and make you look sideways at all the blessings that God gives you, instead of embracing them with gratitude, the enemy wants you to look at the guy next to you's blessings and go, well, how come mine aren't like that? And then you don't appreciate your own. And God's no longer good in your life because he's better to this person. And I fight that attitude constantly.
Yeah. Well, I've got to say, I'm quite sympathetic to you having to fight it, because I think if I was in your shoes, I would be feeling the same sort of pressures. But it's great that your heart desire is to just have Jesus first in the center of all those things. Now, you mentioned that you've been out on the road with some big name people. So you're on Go-To Records, aren't you?
Yes.
Which is Toby Mac's label. So
yeah.
So which, being realistic, is exactly the sort of person you don't want to compare yourself to in some regards. With regards to his success in the music industry, but with regards to who he is as a person, maybe he's a good person to be alongside. So how have you found having Toby's input in your life?
It's phenomenal. He's just a well of knowledge, and he's been in the game a long time. And that alone, I think, deserves respect. What I appreciate, I think, most about Toby is his championing of who I am as an artist. When you, at least for me, when you go onto a record deal, one of the fears is like, are they going to try to make me something? Like make me something else, try to change what I'm doing, or like, do they, like what's the end goal here? And I think I've just seen time and time again that Toby really just wants to champion the sound that's in me and the music that I can do, and just wants me to be the best version of that and not a crummy version of something else.
That makes sense. Yeah, he's trying to nurture who you are and your musical style rather than
absolutely
morph you into something that might be different. Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. So your 2021 album is called Don't Lose Hope. So it's 13 tracks on there. I have spent quite a bit of time listening to it on repeat, and I've got to say, it is a really good piece of work. I know I'm not trying to flatter you, but I just want to tell listeners, listen to Don't Lose Hope, because it is beautiful. There are some really lovely lyrics, some fantastic singing and keyboards and music on there. So obviously your keyboards and singing, but who else is with you making the music? Yeah,
it varies kind of track to track. But one of the producers I work with a lot is his name's Brian Fowler, and he was actually kind of integral in me getting the record deal that I got. So Brian Fowler is involved, and Micah Kuipert is another guy that did some production and some programming. Also, Chris Stevens is another producer that's working with it. But drums, we had, so for the instrumentation, we actually went in on several tracks, went into the studio, which is kind of rare anymore. Most of it's done in like home studios or whatever. And we went into Blackbird Studio in Nashville, which is like a legendary studio. And we had kind of a live session, all these players in together. So that was Paul Mabry, played drums, who he was out with, with Lauren Daigle for a long time, and was really integrating her stuff. We had Brent Milligan and Jacob Lowry on bass on different tracks. Those are legendary studio players. And of course, Mike Payne is a phenomenal electric guitar player. He was on the track as well. I think I already said Chris Stevens played B3. And we had just several different super talented background singers come in and out on these songs. My wife, Leah, is on a couple of the tracks with me. So on Young, she sings the second verse there, and then she provides background vocals for most of the record because she tours with me in my band. I always say she's my favorite band member.
Very wise thing to say.
Yes, yes.
Now that is an interesting dynamic, though. So you and your wife get to. How long have you been married?
6 years, almost 7 years.
6 years. Okay, and did you meet because of music?
Oddly enough, we did. Yeah, I was playing. I was headlining. This was in 2013. I was headlining a concert at a college, Christian college in Indiana, and she was one of the openers. Her and her sister had a duet thing, and I met her at that concert. And I joked to my guitar player. I just said, "Hey, I'm going to marry that girl." And
good joke.
I'm a man of my word.
we have a saying: "Many a true word said in jest." So that is great.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I'm just going to explore that for a second. You met her there. How did it come about then? Were you living close together, or were you on different sides of things?
Well, yeah. I mean, we were within like an hour radius, maybe, which is really close in Indiana because it's like the population density is, there's not that many people in an hour radius.
Sure.
But we met, and so her sister's boyfriend at the time organized the event. So I kind of met through them. But I always say she made the first move because she added me on Facebook later that night.
That's a clear sign. Yep, absolutely.
I think that means that, if it had been one of the new dating things at the time, I think she would have swiped right.
I'm going to say she definitely made the first move in that case. So that's
I think that's fair.
You can go and tell that the whole of the UK now agrees that you're right, Michael. So that's lovely though that you get to sing together. And you tour together. And I've got to say, I'm going to go back and listen to the tracks. You said it's Young. Which other bits is she on?
Yeah, she sings backgrounds on almost every song that has background vocals. She's involved in the harmonies, but she sings the second verse of Young. That's kind of like a.
And what's your favorite thing about your wife?
Gosh, I would just say her gracefulness. She's a very gracious person. I'm not probably the easiest person to live with, or, I can get very stressed and I'm an anxious person, and she's very graceful and she's very patient with me. So that's probably my favorite thing about her.
That sounds like an excellent quality in any wife, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
And what's the thing you most feel that you've got to change about yourself to bless her more?
Oh gosh. I would say I have got to stop being such a procrastinator. That would probably end about 90% of our arguments if I would not procrastinate as much.
But you're a creative, and I think sometimes procrastination and creativity sometimes go hand in hand. So putting off on a lot of things, but spending a lot of time thinking about music, maybe that's an excuse. I don't know.
Yeah.
So with regards to the album, though, which is Leia's favorite song on the album?
Gosh, her favorite song is probably Whole World or He's Not Here, I would say, would be her two favorites.
And what about you? What are your two favorites?
Stained Glass Window.
Yeah.
That's my favorite one. I fought to get that one on there. We were done with the record pretty well, and I had that song, and I was like, I think we need to find a way to put this on there. So we did it. We had to record it in like 2 days and get it done, but we made it under the wire. So that's my favorite one.
That is cool. I'll tell you what, let's hear a little clip of Stained Glass Window right now.
Is my broken pieces, all my incompleteness, take this shattered heart and make a work of art. Won't you show me, Jesus, what your love can do? Like a stained glass window, I wanna feel your light shine through.
And that was Stained Glass Window from Michael Cochren of Cochren Co. Thanks so much, Michael, for all you've shared so far. We've got another track to come from you. It's called One Day. Would you like to give us the backstory to One Day? What's it all about? What's the heart of it?
Yeah, One Day kind of hit radio right in the onset of the pandemic. And so I think a lot of people just associate that song with what was going on at the time, and they think like, oh, that's what you wrote it about. Because, right as it was kind of peaking audience-wise, then we had a lot of the racial tension in the country explode, and a lot of racial justice issues, brought to light. And I think people, just thought we wrote it that year in that season. And really it's the sovereignty of God, I think, because we wrote that song like almost a full year prior to it coming out. And God just chose the time for it to be relevant and for it to touch hearts and lives. And we never could have imagined how some of the lines, I mean, the first verse, talks about one day there'll be no more need for a hospital room. One day there'll be no more lives taken too soon. And the second verse says, one day the color of our skin won't cause a divide. Those were things that we were feeling, a year before, and God, I think, just orchestrated and just held that song in his hands until it was time for it to impact people, But I wrote that song with a guy named Brian Fowler and Matt Armstrong, and we came into a write one day, just like heavy-hearted. I still serve at a church when I'm off the road, and we'd had some sickness, some cancer. Two different families were heavily affected by it at the time, so that was weighing on my mind. And we also knew of a family through my friends that had just lost a young child in an accident. And so there was just a lot of heaviness on my mind for those couple of weeks. So I came in and we just were thinking about what we're going to write about. And I was like, guys, I'm honestly just feeling really kind of like down. So I don't know if we can write anything, And they're like, let's just write to that. And so we started listing, all the problems. And then this chorus idea came about, like that there's going to be healing, that it's not always going to be like this. So then we began to rewrite the lyrics and say, okay, let's write from a perspective of one day these things are not going to be things that plague our world, that challenge our existence in our hearts and minds. And so we began to write that. I said, one day there's going to be no more waiting left for us. One day, finishing up in the final verse, one day the greatest problem is going to be solved forever, and that's the power of evil. It's going to be completely gone. There's going to be not only will there be no sin, but there'll be no capacity for sin. We won't even be able to do that. And that's going to cause perfection, and it's going from that time when we wrote it and what we've been through now. That song has meant so much to me. It's like blessed me every time that we play it out, every time that we perform it. And we played that song. So touring stopped, for a long time here, and we were back in the spring. And it was like a year after everyone had heard that song for a year and listened to it. And so we played this first concert in Texas in an arena. And when we got to the chorus of that song, the whole arena like stood up and began to like sing along with us. And I couldn't sing. I mean, I just like emotionally just teared up, kind of broke down. And I think it was a culmination of what those words meant to me the past year, and also what they'd meant to the people. I could see their faces, and just to think that God had used that song to serve them in those dark months. And, we were sent videos of hospitals using the song in the hallways whenever they would release COVID patients, and they'd be playing those lyrics, just blasting them, in secular hospital systems, and God was just working, and it's just truly, it's humbling and overwhelming to know, how a song like that can touch people.
Hallelujah, there will be healing from this heartache we've been feeling. We're singing the darkest night, 'cause we know that the light will come, and there will be healing. Hallelujah.
And that was One Day by Cochren and Company. So thank you very much indeed, Michael, for all that you've shared so far. I'm sure our listeners have really enjoyed hearing your story and the story behind the music as well. And it would be so helpful right now if you're happy to pray for listeners.
I would love to. Yes, please. Father, we just come to you just acknowledging all that you are and your holiness. And God, we're grateful that you hear us through Jesus and through his blood that covers us. And God, we have that peace with you now because of that. So I just pray that peace on everyone who's listening, that they would experience peace. And that's like, Lord, we know that that's a hard thing to come by, it seems like, in the world. And the peace that the world promises is really not true peace, God. So I'm just praying that you would give us the peace that you promised us in your word that passes understanding, that the world can't take away. And I pray that people would feel that in these crazy times. And as, you know, so many people around us are scrambling to find their confidence and to find their strongholds in the systems of this world and in governments and in politics and in, you know, finances or whatever it is, God, I just pray that you would show your people that you are the stronghold of our life. You are the protector of our life. You are the place that we can go to, place our confidence in you, place our hope and our trust in you. God, I just pray that you would provide for the needs of your people, provide for your churches all around the world. God, I just pray that that your word would be just active in the lives of people that need to hear it. And God, I just pray for Hope FM. God, I pray that as they continue to be faithful to you and continue to foster just a community of radio and music, Lord, that you bless them. And God, I'm just thankful for anyone that would listen and for anyone that would listen to our music. God, I just pray that you would bless them and that they would know how blessed we are as artists by them and by their support. And we're just very grateful, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Michael. And you mentioned peace in that prayer. And I'm just thinking about listeners at home who maybe at the moment aren't really sure who this God is that we're talking about, and maybe they don't go to church. But if you're in the UK listening to this, then do pop on to www.findachurch.co.uk, because there are many churches around the UK that would love to help you to know more of God's love and for you to find that peace that Michael was just praying about. Wow. And if you're listening somewhere else in the world on one of our partner stations, just encourage you to contact the studio for that station and ask them to recommend a good church for you. Michael, thanks so very much for all you've shared so far. It'd be great to find out your debut album is out this year, 2021. When did it actually launch?
It came out in January of 2021.
Okay. So you had a bit of space and you've been on the road with it. So have you enjoyed doing that?
Oh, absolutely. I love being out on the road touring and playing music, hoping to come to the UK one day. I've never been, and I've
never been to the UK.
Never been, and I would love to. You know, I've traced my family lineage to Scotland, and I want to come so badly to find out where that is. You know.
So I'm Gordon, which is obviously the clan of Gordon, which is the best Scottish clan. There's a bit of rivalry between the clans. It's the best one. Just telling you that now. Do you know which clan your family's from, or not yet?
No, I don't know. I just know that I used to know like a general area of where they came from, but off the top of my head, I don't know that either.
No, that's fine. So, but just so you know, so Scotland, if you're thinking about sort of Edinburgh or something like that, that's about rounding up about 500 miles from where we are here on the south coast. So we're in the nice warm bit of the UK. All of Scotland's cold and wet, but it's beautiful and amazing. So definitely, if you do come to the UK and you're going to Scotland, you'll have to make the 500-mile detour though to come via Bournemouth as well on the south coast.
Yes, of course.
In fact, that is a genuine invitation for you, because if you come, we'll make sure that we can find a place for you to do a gig down here in the Bournemouth area.
Oh man, I would love that.
It would be
That'd
great.
Be awesome.
Okay, but plans that are realistic at the moment. What sort of things are you doing in the next 12 months?
Yeah, well, we're actually going to put out a new record. We've been working nonstop I've been writing all year long. We've got a few songs somewhat recorded. So we're going to be looking at a new single top of the year and hopefully maybe a record by summer. So
when you say a record by summer, how many tracks are you thinking of by next summer?
Probably 10. I would say like a full album.
Okay, because there's 13 on your last album, 10 for the new one. Not that far apart in months, really, to be doing two. So that's pretty cool. Which means, therefore, there's going to be some more singles coming out, and we'll be looking forward to those for sure.
Yes.
So that's going to be keeping you quite busy, I would guess. For people who want to find out the things that you're doing as they come out, obviously they can listen to us here on Hope FM, but where do people connect with you? Where's the best place?
Social media, I would say Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram. So that would be Instagram.com/Cochren Music. My website is cochranmusic.com. And I'm on TikTok. So I'm always posting funny things on TikTok.
I'm actually intrigued because I've got to say, I've never been on TikTok.
Well, I'm not advocating that you start.
I've really tried to be strict with myself because you mentioned about social media earlier on being like this thing with comparison.
Yes.
So I've tried to avoid looking too much and just losing my life into social media because I know it can be a thing that just steals so much. So, but now I'm tempted now. See, I'm already on TikTok to go and find out what you do there.
Don't let me tempt you to add another thing in there.
Yeah. Well, I probably will have to now because I think it could be fun. Okay, just to see you, then I'll stop. Quit straight away. That's the important thing. Now, it isn't long till Christmas, so it would be useful to know, what does Christmas mean to you? What are you planning to do, and what's been your best Christmas ever?
Well, Christmas, I guess the best way to say what it means to me, it doesn't feel like Christmas season until I start to get together with family. So I guess family is what would make that'd be like, the important thing of Christmas to me, and obviously, the meaning of Christmas is, celebrating the birth of Christ and the hope. But I think something about coming together with family to do that is just beautiful, because the older I get, the more separated I am from my family. It seems like when you're a kid, you take it all for granted because you seem to see these people all the time. Now I'm out on my own. My parents live, they live in the same state, but we're never home, and so we don't see them much. So this holiday season, I'm really looking forward to just being around family. And the past couple of years, we've been limited at Christmas time on who can come, who can be around, and are we going to do anything at all? And so this year, I'm looking forward to that. My favorite Christmas ever, that's tough, but I would say it's probably the Christmas of 2014, because my now wife and I had gotten engaged a couple months prior, and it was kind of the first time we were seeing everybody with that ring on her finger. And I just remember the excitement of that and getting to just talk about her to everybody and kind of, that was just a special time,
I can imagine that being a great moment. Yeah. The sort of thing that you remember for a long time, those things. So that's a lovely Christmas memory.
Talking to some of the best names in contemporary Christian music. This is the Hope FM Artist Interview.
It'd be interesting to find out, with regards to the Bible, who's the Bible character that you most relate to and why? You're not allowed to have Jesus.
Who I most relate to? Gosh. Probably Peter, because I think I get ahead of myself a lot. And I'm thinking like Peter, not Apostle Peter, like early on Peter in his life, not like the sanctified, leader of many, the Rock Peter. I'm thinking more of like, I'll never deny you. I'll never, the overconfident, the overzealous, but then kind of feebly, just, I relate to his weakness, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But I also think I relate to the compassion that Christ shows him. And I like to think that I receive that a lot from Jesus. I think that Jesus has made me breakfast many times,
Oh, yeah.
and has consoled me many times, and has talked me off the ledge, so to speak, and brought me back into the fold, so I relate to that.
That's, I'm racking my brains. I don't think I can remember anyone else choosing Peter, but I love the reason that you did. That's beautiful. Thank you so much for telling us that. Okay, so we've got one more thing that I need to ask you about, which is not a very deep thing. It's just to ask, what's the weirdest thing you've ever done?
I've done a lot of weird things. I told you, I usually anything for a laugh since I was a kid, but a weird thing that this is fresh on my mind because I just told someone about it like 2 days ago. Last summer, our small group was meeting outside to try to be safer at the church here. And we had this little get together as a bonfire, and we have like locusts in our area, that will like leave their shells around, and cicadas or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And kids will, kids think it's fascinating to find those little, so it looks like a whole bug, just the shell of it,
Well, how big are they?
Maybe the size of your thumb.
Okay.
And it looks just like a outward shell of this whole bug. And so they stick on trees, and this little 5-year-old boy found one. He was running around to all the other girls in our church group, and he was scaring them with it and putting them on people and like laughing when they get freaked out. So he comes over to me and he stuck it on my shirt to try and scare me. And I don't know why, but I just grabbed the thing and went.
And you ate it.
Yeah. And his face went from like this mischievous snicker to like. And he couldn't believe it. He turns and looks at his mom and dad. He's like, oh. And my wife was horrified. She's like, I look over at her and everyone's laughing, and she's just like, what have you done? I don't know why.
That is great. Well, she's probably thinking, I've got to kiss that. That's all.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, I've got to say, kudos. That is quite a weird, fun thing to have done. So, Brill. And also, I suppose I should ask, not everything in life always goes well, though. When you're on tour, has there been an occasion where things have just gone, we would say Pete Tong, which means wrong?
Yeah, many times. So when we first started touring, we were like touring in like a sedan. Me and a couple of my friends would stick all our stuff in cars. So we've gone the whole way. We've done overnight trips, and one of the worst experiences on the road was a few years ago. Before the record deal, we were just independently grinding, trying to do it. We played in a city called Omaha, Nebraska, and we showed up and played for 2 people in the audience, and we made $3 that night playing, and it cost us $6 to park the van outside. So not counting gas and travel and paying the band, we were already $3 in the hole just from parking.
That is a thing going wrong.
Yes.
What was the reason there were only 2 people?
Well, the venue there that brought us in is in the basement of this like coffee shop thing, and they had a cover charge of $5, and we were splitting that with the venue. So they had the stage over here and like a billiard room hangout spot over here, and a black curtain was the cover charge separator. So everyone just came and listened for free on the other side of the curtain, instead of paying $5 to see the music they were listening to for free. So I was like, I wouldn't pay $5 to come in, and you're listening to it over there, So we were frustrated. But then we came back 2 years later on a big tour and played a sold out arena. So it's like redemption.
Yeah, that makes up for it. But that is a great little story. Thank you so much, Michael. So we've got one more track to play from you. It's a Christmas track. So tell us, what's the name of this track, and tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, it's called Christmas, What the World Needs. And the title really sums it up. I mean, I think after the couple of years that we've had, the world needs to experience the Christmas season maybe more than they ever have before. And like I said, for me, that means family time, But I think it's a reminder of the joy and the peace of Christ. And, hearing the angels, say, fear not. I think everyone needs that message, fear not, don't fear. There's a Savior that's come, and he's for everyone. He's for the kings, and he's for the shepherds, and he's for the highest of society and the lowest of society and everyone in between. And, the song is kind of a nostalgic approach to Christmas, and just talking about seeing the lights on Main Street and being with family, and thinking of hearing my grandfather read the Christmas story at our family get together. And I wanted to put all that into a song and hopefully get people as excited about Christmas as I am.
Let the church bells ring their melody. Let the choir bring a little harmony. 'Cause peace on earth sounds good to me. Oh, Christmas is what the world needs.
And that was Christmas, What the World Needs. And thank you so much to Michael Cochren from Cochren and Company for joining us today on the Artist Interview, a podcast from Hope FM. And whether you're listening to here in the UK on Hope FM or worldwide on one of our partner stations, I hope you've really enjoyed listening. And there are many other really great interviews from some wonderful artists for you to enjoy. Just nip onto your favourite podcast platform and search up The Artist Interview. Guys, and also please, if you will, just subscribe, share it with your friends, spread the blessing. These artists put so much of their heart into what they share and into their wonderful music, and we'd love more people to receive the goodness from it. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Talking to some of the best names in contemporary Christian music. This is the Hope FM Artist Interview.